My life was built around two people. My son, Ben, and my husband, Peter. Peter was a heart surgeon, a man everyone admired. His work was demanding, and I was happy to support him. I stepped back from my own career as a paralegal to care for Ben and manage our home. For years, I believed we were a team. I handled the daily life so Peter could save lives. Our world was comfortable and full of purpose. Ben was the bright center of everything. He had his father's smile and a curiosity about the world that was all his own. I thought our family was unbreakable, a safe harbor from any storm. We had a beautiful home in a quiet suburb, the kind of place where neighbors waved and kids played in the streets. I loved our little routines, making breakfast for my two guys, watching Peter teach Ben how to throw a baseball in the backyard. Those memories played in my mind like a perfect film reel, a life I was so sure of. The storm came anyway. Ben was diagnosed with leukemia just after his 6th birthday. For 2 years, our life became hospitals, treatments, and fragile hope. I was Ben's constant. I learned medical terms, managed his medication, and held him through countless painful procedures. Peter tried to be there, but his surgical schedule was relentless. He would visit, always seeming strained, his pager going off constantly. I made excuses for him. I told myself, and Ben, that Daddy was saving other children. That his work was a tribute to our fight. There were nights I cried alone in the hospital bathroom, wishing for his strength beside me. But I buried those feelings. We needed to be strong for Ben. The house grew quieter, filled with medical equipment instead of toys. Peter's chair at the dinner table was often empty, a silent monument to his absence. Ben's fight ended on a quiet Tuesday morning. He was 8 years old. He slipped away peacefully in his sleep, in his own bed, with me holding his hand. The grief was a physical pain, a weight that made it hard to breathe or think. In a fog, I began planning the funeral. Peter was distant, locked in a silent sorrow I couldn't reach. He moved through the house like a ghost, barely speaking. Then, 2 days before the service, he told me about the conference. A major cardiology summit in Zurich. He said it was unavoidable, a professional duty he had committed to months ago. His name was on the speaker list. He promised he would fly back the moment it ended. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to shake him. But part of me, the tired part, understood. Maybe he needed to escape this suffocating sadness. Maybe losing himself in his work was his only way to cope. So, I swallowed my anger and nodded silently. The morning of the funeral, Peter packed a sleek black suitcase. He dressed in a crisp, charcoal gray suit, not his funeral clothes. He said he was going straight to the airport after the service, which was a lie I didn't know yet. He kissed my cheek at the curb outside the airport departures. His eyes were hidden behind expensive sunglasses. I wish I could be there, he said, his voice thick. I saw a single tear escape down his tan cheek. I believed it was real. I believed his pain was just too big, too overwhelming to face the finality of the service. I hugged him tightly, feeling the stiff, unyielding posture of his body. Just come home soon, I whispered into his jacket. He nodded, gave me a final, sad smile that didn't reach his mouth, and walked into the terminal without looking back. I drove to my son's funeral alone, the emptiness in the passenger seat a cavernous hole. The service was a blur of tears and soft, sad music. So many people came to honor Ben, his teachers, his little friends from the hospital, our families. Their hugs were kind, but they felt like echoes from far away. My sister, Molly, never left my side. She was my rock, handing me tissues, holding my hand. During the final prayer at the graveside, as the pastor spoke of angels, I felt her stiffen beside me. She was looking down at her phone, her face turning a sickly pale, then bright red with a pure, hot anger. She grabbed my arm, her grip so tight it almost hurt. "Lainey," she hissed, her voice trembling with rage. She turned her screen to me. It was a photo from a social media page of someone I didn't know. There was Peter, smiling broadly, holding a flute of champagne on a beautiful terrace overlooking a turquoise ocean. A young woman was tucked under his arm, her head on his shoulder. The woman was Jessica. I recognized her immediately. She was a nurse from Peter's hospital, the one who always seemed to be lingering when I visited. I had met her once at a holiday party. She was laughing in the photo, looking up at him with adoring, sparkling eyes. The caption below it, written by the friend who posted it, read, "So happy my love could finally get away. #Cabo Dreams #New Beginnings." The date stamp was from today. Right now. This very moment. While I stood in the cold cemetery, the scent of damp earth and flowers filling my nose, he was on a sunny beach in Mexico. With her. The ground beneath my high heels seemed to vanish. The sharp, aching grief for my son twisted and mutated into something new, something sharp, icy cold, and terrifyingly clear. After the repast, where I smiled numbly at guests, I went home to a house that felt deader than ever. The silence was a heavy blanket. I walked past Ben's closed door, my hand hovering over the knob, but I couldn't go in. Not yet. Instead, I went straight to Peter's office at the end of the hall. It was his sacred, private space, always locked. I had never cared to go in before, respecting his need for a quiet place to work. The polished wooden filing cabinet had a small, sturdy brass lock. That lock felt like a final, deliberate insult. I remembered a spare key he kept hidden for emergencies. After 10 minutes of searching, I found it taped inside an old, dusty golf trophy in the back of the garage. My hands were perfectly steady as I turned the key. The lock clicked open with a sound that echoed in the quiet house. I pulled open the top drawer. My eyes instantly landed on a thick, cream-colored file labeled Private Investments. With a deep breath, I opened the file. Inside were neat, organized bank statements for an account I had never seen. The name on it was P. Prescott Holdings LLC. The balances were large. Very large. Regular deposits, always and even, substantial amounts, had been made every month for over a year. They were for sums of money that didn't match his hospital salary deposits in our joint account. My paralegal training kicked in, cutting through the emotional fog. This was a hidden asset. This was deliberate financial secrecy. The first, soul-crushing lie was the affair. The second, calculated lie was the secret river of money. I knew in my bones that there were more lies waiting to be found. I sat down heavily in his expensive leather chair, the papers spread before me under the glow of his desk lamp, and began to read every line, every transaction. My search became more determined. Next, I found a small, cream-colored envelope stuck to the back of another file with a paperclip. It held a receipt from a very expensive, well-known jeweler in the city. It was for a diamond tennis bracelet, purchased 6 months prior. I never received any such bracelet. My heart hammered as I began a methodical search of his desk drawers. In the bottom left drawer, beneath a stack of old medical journals, I found a credit card bill for an account I didn't recognize, in his name only. The charges were a detailed roadmap of his double life. Fancy dinners at romantic restaurants, weekend charges at a boutique hotel in the city, and, most damning of all, 2 first-class airline tickets to Cabo San Lucas, purchased 3 weeks ago. The evidence was no longer a painful suspicion. It was a cold, hard, irrefutable fact. He had built a whole other life, funded in secret, while I was caring for our dying son. I did not break down. I did not throw the papers or scream. Instead, a strange, almost supernatural calm settled over me. This was no longer my personal tragedy, this was a case now. He was the opposing party. I was the investigator. I needed discovery. I took my phone from my pocket and began photographing every single document. Every statement, every receipt, every suspicious entry. I worked with a methodical, detached precision, making sure the dates and amounts were crystal clear in each shot. The soft sound of the camera shutter was the only noise in the house. Each click felt like I was locking away another piece of the man I thought I had known, storing him as evidence. When I was done, I carefully, precisely placed every paper back exactly as I had found it, the file back in its spot, the drawer closed and locked. Sitting in my dark kitchen, I knew I needed a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. I needed a warrior. I called Susan, my former boss from the prestigious law firm where I had worked years ago, before Ben was born. She was tough, brilliant, and famously had no patience for dishonest men. It was late, but she answered. I told her everything, my voice flat and factual, recounting the funeral, the photo, the bank statements. There was a long, heavy silence on the line. I could almost hear her mind working. Then she said, "Bring me everything you have. Tonight. Don't wait." Her voice was like forged steel. "We are going to find the rest of it, Lainey. Every last cent. And then we are going to make sure you are taken care of." For the first time since seeing that photo, I felt a flicker of something other than crushing despair or icy rage. It was the first spark of resolve. Susan met me at her downtown office after hours. The building was silent except for the hum of the air conditioning. She reviewed the photos on my phone, her eyes narrowing behind her reading glasses. "This is hidden income," she stated flatly. "And significant. We need to know its source. Is it a side business, a kickback, what? And we need the full picture on the mistress. Who is she, really?" She immediately recommended two people, a forensic accountant named Walter and a discreet private investigator named Diane. Their job was simple but critical: follow the money trail to its origin, and uncover the complete truth about Jessica. I authorized it without a moment's hesitation. The retainer fees were large, but I wrote the checks from our joint savings account. I considered it merely an advance on what Peter already owed me for 11 years of partnership and 2 years of solitary battle. Peter returned home 3 days later. He had a golden tan and tried to wear a somber expression, but it didn't fit his relaxed posture. He smelled like coconut sunscreen and faintly, beneath it, an expensive, floral perfume that wasn't mine. "Lainey," he said, opening his arms for a hug as he walked in the door. "I'm so sorry I wasn't here. The conference was draining." I took a sharp step back, my body rigid, my arms crossed tightly over my chest. "I need space, Peter," I said, my voice low and carefully controlled. "The grief, it's too much, too raw. I need to process alone." He looked momentarily surprised, then visibly relieved. He thought my distance was just the expected, manageable sadness of a grieving mother. He nodded, adopting a sad, understanding face. "Of course, whatever you need. I'm here when you're ready." He bought the act completely. He went upstairs to unpack, and a few minutes later, I heard him whistling a light, happy tune from the shower. A week later, Diane the investigator called. Her report was devastatingly detailed. Jessica was 28, a cardiac nurse. More importantly, she was the only daughter of Dr. Arthur Bolton, the powerful and revered chief of surgery at Peter's hospital. Their affair, Diane reported, was apparently an open secret among the hospital staff. It was seen as a messy, dramatic cliché, but no one dared speak up or report it because of her father's towering influence. Peter wasn't just having a reckless affair. He was strategically, cynically aligning himself with the boss's daughter. The pieces of his naked ambition started to click into place, and the picture they formed was ugly and calculated. It wasn't just about love or lust, it was about climbing the hospital ladder. Walter, the forensic accountant's report arrived via secure email next. It was the financial bombshell. The hidden money flowed from a single source, a medical device company called MedTech Solutions. Peter was receiving large, regular, consulting fees from them. At the exact same time, he was the leading voice on the hospital's procurement committee, the group that recommended which new heart valves and stents the hospital would purchase. Walter's analysis showed the company's products had suddenly and inexplicably become the hospital's top choice over the last 18 months, despite competitive bids from other firms. It was a glaring, textbook conflict of interest. A major ethical violation that bordered on fraud. This wasn't just a personal betrayal anymore. This was professional corruption, and it gave his secret money a deeply sinister smell. I sat in Susan's sunny conference room, the two reports laid on the polished table between us. "This changes everything, Lainey," she said, tapping the MedTech report. "This isn't just divorce leverage, this is career-ending leverage. He could lose his medical license over this. The hospital board would have to investigate." She advised a careful, two-stage strategy. We would not lead with the ethics violation. First, we would file for divorce on the clear grounds of adultery, which we could easily prove with the Cabo photos and the credit card bills. We would use the financial discovery of the hidden account to ensure an overwhelming, favorable settlement. The MedTech scandal was our silent, nuclear weapon, held in reserve to ensure he would never fight us in court. We crafted the plan with the precision of a military campaign. I would continue to play the part of the grieving, emotionally fragile wife. I would not confront him about Jessica or the secret money yet. Let him feel secure, even smug. Meanwhile, Susan and her team prepared the divorce filing. A key part was the full financial affidavit, a legal document that would force him, under penalty of perjury, to declare all assets and income. He would have to either lie on a sworn document, a felony, or reveal the existence of the P. Prescott Holdings account and the MedTech money. Either choice would trap him. The immediate goal was not to destroy him publicly. The goal was to secure my financial future first. The rest would follow. The papers were ready. Susan had them served by a process server directly to Peter at the hospital, right outside the surgical wing. It was a brutally strategic move. It would shake him in the environment where his reputation was everything, surrounded by his peers. I was at home, pretending to garden, when my phone began to vibrate incessantly. It was Peter, call after call, back to back. I didn't answer. I let each one ring out. Finally, a series of frantic texts came through. "What is this? We need to talk now. Lainey, call me. This is insane." I pictured him in his pristine office, the divorce papers on his desk, the attached financial affidavit boldly highlighting the line for all other financial accounts, with the P. Prescott Holdings account handwritten in by Susan as a discovery. His safe, secret world was cracking open right in the place he valued most. He stormed into the house that evening, his face flushed red with anger and panic. He threw his briefcase on the floor. Have you lost your mind? He shouted, waving the crumpled papers. How could you do this now, of all times? To me? I was sitting calmly on the living room sofa, a book unopened in my lap. I looked up at him, my face a placid mask. I know about Cabo, Peter, I said, my voice eerily quiet. I know about Jessica. I know about the bank account you hid from me. And I know about the money from MedTech. His anger vanished, extinguished like a candle in a hurricane. His mouth opened and closed, his eyes wide with pure, undiluted shock. He stammered, searching for words that wouldn't come. It's not what you think, was all he could finally manage, his voice weak. I held his gaze. It's exactly what I think, I said, each word slow and clear. The next day, his tone underwent a complete transformation. He came to me in the kitchen, his hands held out in a pleading gesture. Lainey, let's be reasonable here. We can settle this quietly, between us. I'll give you more. The house, a much bigger alimony payment. You'll be comfortable for life. Just, let's keep this out of court, okay? No lawyers. He was scared. But I saw it clearly now, he wasn't scared of losing me. He was terrified of the scandal, of the truth coming out at the hospital. He thought he could buy my silence, just like he bought that diamond bracelet for Jessica. He still saw everything in life as a transaction. My dignity and my silence had a price tag in his mind. The realization made me feel cold and sick. I refused his offer with a simple shake of my head. Everything will go through our lawyers now, Peter, I told him, my voice firm. I don't want to speak to you directly about this again. He looked at me, and for the first time, he truly saw the change. The meek, supportive, accommodating wife was gone. In her place was a woman he didn't recognize, a woman with a spine of steel, a cache of evidence, a sharp lawyer, and a cold, burning fire in her eyes. He left the room without another word, his shoulders slumped. Later that night, I heard him through the study door, his voice a frantic, panicked whisper. He was on the phone with Jessica, saying, she knows everything. This is bad. My lawyer says I have to disclose the account. We have a serious problem. The invitation for the hospital's annual charity gala, the Heartbeat Ball, arrived on our kitchen counter. Peter was slated to receive the prestigious Excellence in Cardiac Care Award. The rumor, which my sister Molly heard from a friend in the billing department, was that he would be attending with Jessica on his arm. Now that he was publicly separated, they would make their debut as a couple. It was to be their victory lap, their coming out party, celebrated in front of the entire medical community. Susan and I discussed it during a strategy meeting. You don't have to go, Lainey. It will be painful, she said. But I knew I did. I had to go. For Ben. For closure. For the final, decisive act of the play he had written. The night of the gala, I went alone. I wore a simple, elegant black sheath dress, my mother's pearls, and a calm determination. I slipped into the back of the glittering grand ballroom as the awards ceremony began. The room was a sea of tuxedos and gowns. I saw him immediately at the head table, Jessica beside him, radiant in a bright red dress, beaming up at him. He looked triumphant, relaxed, the picture of success. He gave a long, polished speech thanking the hospital, his devoted colleagues, and his supportive family. He spoke passionately about integrity, dedication, and the sacred trust of medicine. The applause was thunderous. Then, the smooth-talking host opened the floor for a few questions from the audience. I waited. I let one soft question pass. Then I saw my moment. I walked with steady steps to the microphone stand in the center aisle. All eyes in the enormous room turned to me. A murmur of recognition and confusion went through the crowd, the estranged wife. Peter's confident smile froze, then shattered when he recognized me. His glass hovered halfway to his lips. I picked up the microphone. My voice was clear, calm, and projected perfectly, echoing in the now silent room. "Dr. Prescott," I began, not calling him Peter. "Congratulations on the award. It's a testament to your public profile." I paused, letting the room lean in. "I have one question regarding the ethical standards we all so admire in this profession." I looked straight at him, my gaze unwavering. "Can you please explain the nature of the $15,000 monthly consulting fees you received from MedTech Solutions last year? And can you confirm for the board whether Chief of Surgery Dr. Bolton was fully aware of these payments when you championed MedTech's devices for the hospital's exclusive contract?" The silence that followed was absolute, deafening, thick enough to choke on. Peter turned a ghostly, greenish-white. He gripped the edge of the table, his knuckles bone-white. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. At the head table, Dr. Arthur Bolton stood up so fast his chair shrieked against the floor and toppled backward with a crash. His face was a thundercloud of fury and dawning horror. He looked from Peter's paralyzed form to his daughter, Jessica, whose face was now buried in her hands, her shoulders shaking. The scandal broke in that very instant, in that very room. The hospital board launched an immediate internal investigation the next morning. Peter's surgical privileges were suspended by noon. Within a month, with the ethics violation making headlines and the divorce proceedings exposing his infidelity, Peter agreed to a settlement that gave me the house, a large lump sum, and significant alimony. I used a portion to start Ben's Light, a foundation funding pediatric cancer research and family support. Peter lost his reputation, his career, his mistress, and any last, fragile thread connecting him to our son's memory. I walked away with my dignity, my future, and the quiet, solid knowledge that I had fought for the truth when it mattered most. The night he skipped our son's funeral to toast his new beginning, he thought he was claiming his freedom. But he was only laying the bricks for his own permanent, professional, and personal prison. And I, the quiet paralegal wife he underestimated, held the key to the lock.